How the hell is nobody talking about Maxime Raynaud?
Said it, I'm golden. Told you I'm shining. Had to break through. Plan perfect timing. Giving no hands. Go get it. Radix the ruler. Can't them peasants. Want to win pleasant.
The Miami Heat picked 20th overall in the upcoming 2025 NBA draft. And so far in my draft series, I've discussed Liam McNeely, Rasheed Fleming, Noah Asenge, Will Riley, Nee Clifford, Walter Clayton Jr., Cedric Howard, Nolan Troy, Ben Stoff, Jay Sertis, Carter Bryant, Thomas Horber, Danny Wolf, and now Maxime Raynaud. I want to give a huge shout out to Get Real 1932, Wilco Ranking, and Jay Runis because they were the only three people to mention Maxime Raynaud, which is somebody that is quickly becoming one of my favorite prospects in the entire draft. So shout out to y'all, and to everybody else, make sure to leave your comments down below for who you want to see me talk about next. But as far as Maxime Raynaud, he is the definition of a true sleeper because almost nobody was mentioning him until he really stood out at the combine, where he both played really well in the 5-on-5 scrimmage and had some pretty great measurables too. He came in at 7'1" without shoes, so he'll probably be listed in the NBA at 7'1", which is what he was listed at in college. So he's obviously got some great height to him. His wingspan came in at just over 7'1", so a slightly positive wingspan, although it's basically the same, and it's definitely not negative. So I'm cool with that. He's a tall guy. He's got a tall wingspan. That's fine. And then he also weighed 237 pounds. When you watch him play, he does look a little bit skinny, not as skinny as like a Chet Holmgren. You can just tell he's not a super big bruising center. He's not going to be a back-to-the-basket guy like Thomas Sorber is, who's about 20 pounds more than Maxime Raynaud. And for some context, Khalil Ware in the combine was weighing in at 230 pounds. So Maxime is about 7 pounds more. He is 22 years old, so he's definitely an older prospect. Was born in Paris, France, but he played 4 seasons at Stanford, where he was an absolute late bloomer, because you can see huge progression from his freshman season to his senior one, where he averaged a dominating 20 points per game, just over 10.5 boards, got you 1.7 assists, shot 47% from the field on 16 field goal attempts. So he was getting the shots up. And then get this, he shot 5.5 threes at about 35%. So he was launching the long ball at over 7 feet tall, which you really like to see because that's how you get to that unicorn status. I understand the 3-point percentage isn't spectacular. 35% is about average. For his position, it's pretty good. But I do want to note he's always had a pretty good free throw percentage, at least his last 2 seasons. He was at about 77 to 78%, and that's the sign of someone who has pretty decent mechanics, or at least has potential as a shooter, because if you do watch his mechanics on his jump shot, they're a bit awkward. His base is a bit weird. He has a very quick release, doesn't exactly hold the follow through, although I do think he gets some nice flick action on the wrist. But in general, his whole motion is a bit catapulty. And as a guy who formerly had a catapult shot, I can't say I blame him. If it goes in, it goes in. And also at 7 feet tall, I understand it's a bit awkward to shoot. So, hey, if that's what's comfortable for him, that's fine. And I do think when he gets in the NBA and he gets some professional development staff, they might be able to make some minor tweaks to get him closer to the high 30% when it comes to his 3-point percentage. I also want to note how in the official combine, where he played his 5-on-5 scrimmage, he really showed out, dropping 20 points and 9 rebounds. A lot of those points and boards were some really easy putbacks. He was being guarded by guys who were a lot smaller than him. So I saw some scouts kind of discrediting his performance, but I do think that he showed really nice touch and confidence. And if you're playing against guys that are smaller than you, you should dominate, and he did. So I'm not going to take away credit from him because he played against guys who are not as good as him. Like, you can only play who's in front of you, and he certainly showed out in the combine. And for that, I do give Maxime a ton of credit. That performance really helped him jump up a lot of the draft boards because most mocks had him going somewhere in the second round, and now most of them have him going right around where the Heat picked to slightly after that. CBS has him going at number 26. NBA Draft on Nets has him at 31, so very early in the second round still. But then Bleacher Report has him at 22, Yahoo at 23, and Tankathon at number 27. So he is a guy that should be available when the Heat pick, or if the Heats decide that they want to slide back a couple of spots and maybe pick up an asset or two along the way. I do think he's a guy that they could still select and really get some good value there. Some of the player comps that I've seen are rough. The first one that I saw was Luke Cornett, which I don't agree with that at all. That's the one from NBA Draft.net, and I purposely think that they picked that just because Luke Cornett is a skinny white guy that used to shoot threes, and he's tall. Like, no, I don't think those guys have a lot in common at all. I think that Maxime Raynaud is great with the ball, and Luke Cornett looks like he's never dribbled a ball in his entire life. I also saw a comparison to Quentin Post, which, okay, that makes a bit more sense. Post was a very good shooter coming out of college where he played 5 seasons. He was literally a 24-year-old rookie. So there might be people thinking, oh, Maxime is 22 years old. That's way too old. Well, Quentin Post was 24. And he had a pretty damn good rookie season for the Warriors. And if he could get some kind of production like that from Maxime this year, I would certainly take that. But I don't think those guys are great comparisons either. I do think Maxime is a little bit better with the ball than Quentin Post as well. So I think they were just kind of trying to do the whole tall white guy that could shoot threes thing again. The next 2 comparisons I saw are ones that do really interest me, though. We saw Brook Lopez, who I think a prime version of him would have been something that Heat fans would have loved. You're talking about an interior shot blocker that could stretch the floor. What's not to love about that? I do get that comparison, although I am hoping that Maxime is a better rebounder than Brook Lopez. He's shown that he's a better rebounder. But the final comparison that I saw that I absolutely love is Rasheed Ball Don't Lie Wallace, who was a 6'11", just very solid defensive and offensively versatile player that could shoot the ball, could score inside, had some mid-range game, could pass the ball, was a great leader. And I love that comparison because if that's the ceiling for Maxime Raynaud, then that's something that you would take 1,000 times out of 1,000. And I do think they have some similarities there in terms of what they can do with the ball as a big man also. But now I want to get into the strengths and weaknesses that Kevin O'Connor listed in his Yahoo article. And of course, I'll share my own opinions as well based off my independent research. The first strength that Kevin O'Connor has listed is his shooting ability. He does note that he was 35% from 3 on about 5.5 attempts, but it's important to note that not all of those were from a standstill catch and shoot. He was running off the screens. They were running pick and pops for him. So he did show some versatility on the offensive end, which is something this Heat team could use. They could use another dynamic to this offense that could just help open things up and allow them to be a little bit more creative, keep the defense a little bit more honest. And I do think he has a lot of potential as a shooter in the NBA because as far as catch and shoots in college, Maxime Raynaud did shoot 37%. So he likely won't be getting, pinned down screens run for him like Duncan Robinson in the NBA. It'll likely mostly be catch and shoots, which means that his shot selection, the quality will be a little bit better. And I think he could be a guy who could be a 37, 38% three-point shooter right away, which would be excellent for his position. The next strength that he has listed is ball handling, and I'm going to read the full excerpt for this one because it does get me excited. Kevin O'Connor said that in addition to traditional big man moves like taking hook shots over either shoulder, it's not often a player of his size can move as fluidly as he does as a shot creator. Whether he's ball faking then attacking and closeout, slingshotting towards the basket off a screen, or dribbling in transition. He has a tight crossover, mixes in Euro steps, and can get into soft floaters, touch layups, or ferocious tomahawk dunks. This blend of skill makes him especially threatening in ball screens since he can set a mean pick, then roll hard, or pick and pop and make a series of plays. When you talk about a guy who is dynamic offensively, that's Maxime Raynaud. I know in the last video we talked about Danny Wolf, and I got excited. I know a lot of people got excited too. Oh, you see this 7-footer and all the things that he can do with the ball, but it's like Maxime Raynaud can do those things too. And he might even be a little bit more dynamic than Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf shot a lot of threes in college. He didn't shoot them great. He's like 33%. He also had a lot of turnovers. Yes, he had some great highlights, but for every great highlight, there was 2 bad turnovers. Maxime Raynaud seems like a guy that could just do a lot more than that. He's a lot more clean with the ball, and he just moves very, very fluidly. And obviously, you can't put him in a box offensively. You can't hide a bad defender on him because it seems like he has a counter for every counter because he's able to do so many things with the ball. And at 7 feet tall, you're talking about a unicorn status. Seriously, like if you can draft a guy who has the potential to be a unicorn at number 20, that's something I would consider if I was the Miami Heat. That's all I'm saying. The next strength they have listed is his passing. We didn't note this earlier, but he does have a negative assist to turnover ratio. He was getting your 1.7 assists a game, but that was the 2.4 turnovers, which is disgusting. Like, it's literally vomit inducing. However, Kevin O'Connor did go out of his way to say that that is a little bit misleading because he does have a great feel for a passer. He can make touch passes, or he can quickly identify his guards off a rebound and outlet it out to them. He can make bounce passes. He can throw some passes with velocity. He can even facilitate from the high post or operate from a dribble handoff position. Those are all types of passes that is good for the Heat system because you're still going to have guys like Tyler Hero, Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo that you're going to want Maxime Raynaud to get. See how I slipped in Kevin Durant? You're going to have other guys that you're going to want to get the ball. And if you can have a guy like Maxime that can at least make the right reads or run a dribble handoff for those guys, I do think that is beneficial because he doesn't need to be ball dominant to be effective. The next strength that is listed is his rebounding. It says he boxes out well using his frame to carve out space in the paint. And also on offense, he has a great feel for kicking out balls to open shooters off an offensive rebound, in addition to just finishing the putbacks himself. I mean, he's 7 feet tall. He crashes the boards. He gets rebounds. What more can you ask for? He uses his size. He's not Luke Cornett or Brook Lopez. He can rebound. That's good. The final strength that they have listed is his rim protection. It says he uses his height and length to contest shots effectively. He's even bulked up over the years and become a more effective shot blocker at standing strong against beefy bigs and using his immense standing reach to bother them. He's not an elite leaper, but he has good timing and positioning as a shot blocker. So that's, the whole thing. Although he's bulked up, he's not super strong. But at 7 feet tall, you don't need to block shots to deter them. Just kind of get a hand up there, use that verticality, to quote the old Roy Hibbert rule, and that's enough to deter shots because this guy is tall. He's not an undersized center, which the Heat have been trying to run for years before Khalil Ware. No, he is a true 7+ footer, and I love all the things that come to the table with that. Now, you may be wondering, what the hell is this guy's weaknesses? Because literally, his strengths included shooting, ball handling, passing, rebounding, and rim protection. So what can't he do? Well, the first thing that Kevin O'Connor lists is his ball control. It does say that a large chunk of his turnovers come from the interior, whether his back's to the basket or he's driving to the rim. A lot of times he's a little bit too loose with the ball and he'll get stripped, or he tries to get tricky and over dribbles. Same thing we said about Danny Wolf. When you're young and you try doing a lot of things in college and you have a lot bigger role, you're going to turn the ball over. But what you got to understand is in this Heat system, he's not going to have the ball a lot, or at least enough to get this many turnovers. So that's not a huge concern to me. The next weakness that they have is his post offense. It says that he can hit basic hook shots over his left and right shoulder, which is an important tool for him, but he doesn't yet have a finesse turnaround fadeaway or has the size to do a pure power move on a defender, burying them under the rim. You don't need that stuff. Like, it's okay that you're a center that is not a big bruising center. As long as you do have a jump hook over both shoulders to punish a mismatch, that's all you need. Because what you don't want is you don't want the other team hiding their worst defender on you because you can't operate in the post. No, if they put a smaller guy on you, get to that jump hook, knock it down. And I do think that Maxime has the good enough touch to do that. But if he's got Joel Embiid out on him, okay, he's not going to back him down. He's not going to finish with a fadeaway. That's okay. I don't need my 7'1" guy posting and fading away. I'm fine with that. Even the next weakness says mid-range shooting because he doesn't really have a counter for when guys run him off the three-point line. Doesn't have a midi pull-up. I'm fine with that. I don't need my 7'1" guy to have a midi pull-up either. Like, the counter is if guys run out to him to contest his three, just swing the ball to the open man. If you're drawing that much gravity that the defense is not letting you get a shot off, that's a good thing. because that's going to open up so much space for all your other players. And then the final weakness that they have literally just says defensive production, because he doesn't get a lot of blocks. But it even notes again how he has good timing and verticality to deter a lot of shots. So, okay, fine. You don't have the highest vertical. I think his vertical is like sub 30 in the combine, which isn't great. But who am I to talk? My vertical is like 3 inches. Not that there's anything wrong with 3 inches in the right context. But anyways, I don't need him to get blocks. I need him to deter shots. That's fine. I mean, how many shots did Hassan Whiteside, who I love, but how many shots did Hassan Whiteside block out of bounds and then it goes right back to the other team? Sometimes you just got to deter the shot. Keep it in bounds. Force him to miss, get the rebound. That's what Maxime Raynaud can do. So as far as his fit on the Miami Heat, same as Thomas Sorber and Danny Wolf. I think he could play some backup big minutes right now. Just like Danny Wolf, I do like Raynaud's versatility that could allow him to play next to Ware or Bam. Most likely next to Bam. I think for now, Spo would kind of alternate the Ware and Raynaud minutes, or if not Raynaud, Danny Wolf, Thomas Sorber, etc. But I do like the idea of having someone who doesn't clog up the paint offensively, so Bam and Tyler can kind of still get to their spots. But at the same time, you know, Raynaud is still a big body that he could help crash the boards, being an interior presence on the inside. So I do think he would fit what this team's trying to do very well, just like Khalil Ware does. That's why, you know, I love the Khalil Ware pick, and we saw him have a pretty successful rookie season as well. I do wonder, though, I don't have a definitive answer yet between Sorber, Wolf, and Raynaud. I don't know which one of those guys I would like the best. I think I might be leaning Sorber just because I think he has the most defensive potential, and I do trust him to be a productive offensive player one day, although his offensive ceiling is not as high as Wolf or Raynaud, just because he doesn't have the ball handling or lateral quickness or the jumper that those guys have right now. But I mean, I love all three guys. I think they all have a lot of potential. But overall, I would not be mad if this was the guy that the Heat walk away with at number 20 overall, because he fills a position of need. I think he has a lot of potential. Although he's only 22 years old, there's still room to grow, and I think he could play now. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there. But let me know all your thoughts down below. Had you ever heard of Maxime Raynaud before? If you didn't, let me know what you think of him now, and if you think the Heat should use the 20th pick on him. Other than that, make sure to like the video and subscribe, because all your support is greatly appreciated, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.